1, 2, is this on?
Chris Benoit will be remembered for the events that took place during the final weekend of his life. Though it's been said that when he was alive, Benoit had few enemies during his time in wrestling. But for this video, we're looking at those who Chris had negative run-ins with.
All of a sudden I hear, and I get literally yelled at worse than I've ever been yelled at in my entire life.
People in the business who at one point in time disrespected or angered the Rabid Wolverine, and vice versa.
Then walking up, he says, I want you to beat his fucking ass.
Today, we highlight 10 wrestlers who had real-life heat with Chris Benoit.
And Benoit was furious because he was already mad at Hall because on that same loop, they're in the bathroom together and at the urinal stalls, and Scott pissed on Chris's cowboy boots. He just leaned over, like while they were both pissing, and just kind of turned to the side and pissed on his boots and went, sorry, man.
Back in WCW, Kevin Nash infamously referred to Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Eddie Guerrero as vanilla midgets. Over the years, Nash has doubled down on these comments, going as far to say that wrestling died when Eddie and Chris became world champions in 2004.
I'm just talking about my opinion of how I optically look at two small guys being world champions. It's the same thing I said 10 years ago. It's why they all had a mass exodus from WCW when I had the pencil in my hand.
Big Sexy also compared Guerrero and Benoit's triumph to other industries.
Now for me, and for all the 6'4" and above auto workers, all of a sudden it was just like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to see Ali get knocked out by, a 112-pound guy. I watch a basketball game, I watch the post players. I don't watch the point guards.
Chris has said that Kevin never addressed these comments to him face to face. The Rabid Wolverine went on to say that Nash's opinion doesn't bother him, and the success speaks for itself.
Especially WCW, vanilla midget, Nash called you that. I mean, I'm sure you've been called a lot worse things than that. You didn't care though, right? Anyway,
No, I don't care, no. Because to me, that's the greatest revenge is success.
Benoit had friends like Chris Jericho in his corner, with Y2J noting how Kevin was the worst drawing world champion in WWF history. There weren't too many wrestlers who Benoit out and out disliked to the point of physical harm. Juventud Guerrera, however, certainly falls into that category. Juvi didn't last too long in WWE due to his bad attitude and the heat he garnered backstage.
He would tell you.
For real.
For real. He thought he was on the level of The Rock, big time, man.
He rubbed numerous talent the wrong way, including locker room veterans like Chris. Kid Cash had a miserable time working Juventud on SmackDown in 2005, which Benoit took notice of. Guerrero was furious he had to lose the Cruiserweight title to Cash at the Armageddon event.
That day, Juvi didn't want to do business that day because he was losing the belt. So he didn't want to, you know what I'm talking about. He didn't want to talk. We didn't want to get together, didn't want to do anything, insisted on hitting his move. Even though I was going to kick out of it, he still had to hit it.
Because of how Juvi behaved, Benoit ordered Cash to beat the hell out of him at the pay-per-view. Cash revealed this on Rene Dupree's Cafe de Rene podcast.
Then walking up, he says, I want you to beat his fucking ass. And I said, I really don't think John Laurinaitis likes me very much. And he goes, fuck that. Beat his fucking ass. He's on his way out of here, and that man has done nothing but disrespect you. You should want to kick his fucking ass.
Following a physical encounter in which Guerrera did more of the damage, Cash was greeted afterwards by an unhappy Wolverine.
I got to the back, and the first person I see coming around the corner is Chris Benoit. And he goes, I thought you were going to beat the fuck out of me. I was like, I did. You didn't see it? And he goes, that wasn't shit. I meant beat the fuck out of me. Fuck that motherfucker. You're going to wrestle tomorrow night on SmackDown. You beat his fucking ass. And then here comes Juvi walking around the corner. He grabs Juvi by the fucking arm and he pulls him in. He goes, I told him to beat the fuck out of you. And he didn't. He goes, you lucked out. Good thing it wasn't me. And he fucking just let him go, turned around and walked away.
In the return bout on SmackDown, Cash made sure to let Juventud have it, including during the finish, where he deliberately dropped Guerrera on his head.
Even my finishing move, the suplex, he sandbagged me. I literally had to take a double pump to get his ass up. First time I've ever done this on deliberately, but I put him in my move and I deliberately tried to drop him on his head.
Here it is! Everybody ready to go!
Benoit got his wish, and on top of that, Juvi was fired after the match. Probably the worst injury endured by one of Benoit's opponents came at ECW's November to Remember in 1994, when a flapjack maneuver went wrong.
Oh my God! He was supposed to come down on his belly. I guess he was up in the air midway, decided that he wanted to land on his back and didn't have enough time to get his head under and came right down on his head.
He said, I'm gonna hook you and throw you for a belly flop, but don't tuck. But when he threw me up,
Like, he hooked my leg and threw me up. My legs kept climbing higher than my head, and I couldn't flatten out, and I landed on my head.
SABU ended up cracking 2 vertebrae, though he kept wrestling after and never got surgery to correct it. While speaking to the Hannibal TV, SABU said he didn't blame Chris for the accident, but he still disliked him, even both before and after the injury occurred.
That was an accident, and I never held him responsible, but I didn't like him. I didn't like him before that, but I didn't really like him that much after that. I was with him in Japan, and we were never friendly together. He wasn't friendly. If you didn't wrestle him, he didn't even say hello to you.
Benoit took numerous younger wrestlers under his wing and would often give them advice. Chris was old school in that newcomers had to gain respect and earn their way into the locker room. As far as we know, this usually occurred without incident when it came to Benoit, except for The Miz, who the Rabid Wolverine personally banned from the dressing room for eating a piece of chicken over a referee's bag.
All of a sudden I hear, and I get literally yelled at worse than I've ever been yelled at in my entire life.
So I believe Miz got kicked out more than once. There was the thing about the chicken, and then there was another time. And I remember Benoit grabbing, he had the tray and he was like, "Hey, Taker, would you like a beer?" And then Taker said, "Hey, Chris, I think you've been in the business a little too long to be bartending, don't you think?" And that was when Benoit was like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing?"
I remember specifically it being, why are you the one bartending at this point?
Why is that guy not handing the beers out? And so we got kicked out.
Chris had kicked guys out of the locker room in the past, most notably Matt Striker. However, this was done out of tough love, since Benoit was friendly with Striker in private settings. He simply made an example out of him in front of the boys, after Matt made comments disrespecting the SmackDown roster.
Says, "I think it's great that you left teaching to come here. It shows passion for this business, but I need to make an example out of you for all of them. So when we're in front of everybody, I'm going to lay into you whatever, but I promise you I'm going to help you."
Chris once taught Sean Daivari a harsh lesson by making him do 1,000 squats in a row. The youngster had been in the massage therapy room. Then when Shawn Michaels asked Daivari how long he would be, Daivari replied saying 20 minutes. The locker room etiquette was such that a younger wrestler would always allow a veteran or more experienced talent to go ahead of them. So because this didn't happen, Michaels immediately told the other wrestlers, which included Benoit. Ken Kennedy told the story on Cafe de Rene.
And the story goes that fucking Benoit stood up and just barged right in there, kicked that door open, said, "Daivari, get your ass up, go get your tennis shoes on, meet me by the ring." And he made him do so many squats that he said his piss looked like Dr. Pepper. And it was,
oh my God.
Wow. But it's called rhabdomyolysis. And it's where your muscle tissue breaks down and then filters through your kidneys.
Stood next to him and did them with him. He did 1,000 right along with him. He made that guy do 1,000 squats. The next day when that young wrestler couldn't bend his legs, Chris made him do 500 more. That's what respect meant to him.
Going back to The Miz now, and he would eventually be allowed back into the locker room after 6 months dressing in broom closets. Miz then wrestled Benoit and even defeated him in a match. The Miz ultimately earned the respect of Benoit following their issues. The same is true for Justin Roberts. Roberts was a ring announcer, so wasn't one of the boys. That being said, he was still put through the ringer by veterans like Chris. However, unlike with that previous entry, this wasn't a lesson in respect, nor had Justin broken any rules. Benoit and others messed with him just because they could, since they knew he wasn't going to stand up for himself in fear of being fired. In his book, which he read aloud in audio format, Justin talks about a run-in he had with Benoit at the end of a tour. A boozed up Chris put Roberts in a submission that rendered him unable to work afterwards. Upon sobering up, Benoit apologized and offered to take Justin to the hospital.
As I walked into the airport, Chris Benoit walked over to me and asked how my tour went. As I started answering, Jamie Noble grabbed my leg and took me down from behind. Noble put me in a massive crossface, and I instantly tapped out, hoping he would break the hold. Instead, Benoit picked up my leg and twisted my foot, which felt like it cracked. Each hold is a legitimately powerful and painful maneuver, and the combination of the two put on me at once by these athletes, well, words don't really do it justice.
Following the incident, Roberts contemplated quitting, but was talked out of it by some of the higher-ups, who were unhappy about what Chris did. Benoit and Roberts eventually became friendly, but Justin admits how much Chris terrorized him early on during overseas tours.
I remember Benoit knocking on his door so violently that I was sitting there praying to myself, "Please do not open this door, Justin. If you're in there,
Benoit seemed to change when he was drinking. It was like a night and day switch when it came to how he treated people and his overall behavior. It's something multiple wrestlers have talked about on platforms such as Cafe de Rene and the Hannibal TV.
When he drank alcohol, you could see there was problems there. You saw a very evil person.
When he was drinking and partying, there was definitely another side that would come out. I mean, there was a nickname for him, PUB, Pilled Up Benoit. Which was, kind of something that was floating around by a couple of the boys.
But Chris Benoit would show up at my room at night,
1 a.m. He couldn't sleep, and he would want some Xanax. And he was popping, before everything that happened, he was popping Xanax like crazy, like candy.
When he drank, he got to be an angry kind of dude. I didn't really like being around him. And there was a couple times he said and did some shit even towards my way that the next day or so I'd say something to him. I'd be like, man, what the fuck was that? I don't remember that, Nova. I'm sorry. And he didn't remember it.
We went out one night. He pissed in a bar, like against the wall, and not in the bathroom. And I never understood like why he did it, but it did happen. I physically saw it with my eyes. Chris stood up by his table and just pissed against the wall, and then sat back down. And so he was gone.
And I tapped him on the shoulder, say, "Hey, what's up, Chris?" And then just the evil in his eyes, man. You know how some people are mean drunks?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of them, dude. And he's to the point where he blacks out. Like, if he drank too much, he'd black out and wouldn't remember what he's doing, right?
Chuck Palumbo shed light on the darker side of Benoit. Palumbo touched on Chris's drinking and substance use, stating that even when sober, Benoit gave Chuck weird vibes.
But Chris had a crazy side. I'm sorry. I've seen it. I saw the way he hazed some guys. I saw the way he would snap once in a while. I saw how he acted when he drank. When him and Eddie I loved Eddie, he was one of my friends. When him and Eddie would hang out and drink, Chris would get wacky. I've seen him in hotel bars. I've driven with Chris. I've seen Chris taking pills while he's drinking. I've seen Chris do a 180 like a Jekyll and Hyde move when he was drinking and taking Xanax or whatever he was taking.
It's no secret that Chris and Nancy were going through marital problems prior to the final weekend of their and their son Daniel's life. Text message exchanges give us an insight into difficulties Chris and Nancy were having. Here we can see that Benoit's steroid use was an issue of contention, as well as Chris not being there for his children. Nancy had previously filed for divorce in 2003 after being physically hurt by Benoit, which led to a restraining order.
He left the house and she had a restraining order. He didn't get punch in the face, physically violent, but it was intense, and he had pushed her hard and into an island in the kitchen, and she had kind of been down that road before in her life and saw it coming and recognized the signs, was like, just not this time. So I ended up talking to him on the phone, and he had convinced me, so I encouraged my sister to talk to him on the phone, and then they ended up working things out and everything's okay.
Although this and the divorce was subsequently withdrawn after 3 months. The exact details of what happened are unknown, but obviously it was severe enough to warrant such action.
I don't know whether it was intentional or accidental, but he hurt her. Out of respect for the kids that he still has here, I won't go further into that.
When Benoit got with Nancy, it drew the ire of Kevin Sullivan's friend, Mike Graham. Nancy has still been married to Sullivan when she got with Chris, though her and Kevin were separated.
And I asked Kevin, because Kevin's violent. He said, "Mike, I lost my wife. I lost my brand new home on Daytona Beach. I lost almost all my money. I didn't want to lose my job. If I said boo to Chris Benoit, I'd lose my job. And I didn't. That's all I had left."
At the start of 2000, Kevin was WCW's head booker, while Graham was on the creative team. Given their history, Chris didn't trust Sullivan. Graham, meanwhile, let it be known how he felt about Benoit in a face-to-face meeting.
I said, "Now here's the difference between Kevin and I. If you'd have taken my wife, I would kick your ass every time I saw you for the rest of your life. But I said, now that you've tried to take my job because I'm Kevin's friend and you want to fire me, I said, I'll cut your fucking head off."
After Mike confronted Chris, Benoit and a syndicate of wrestlers who already wanted to leave went to HR and complained of an unsafe work environment.
Nancy couldn't let it go. Every day she was telling Chris, "He's going to get you. Watch him. He's going to get you." So years go by. Benoit said he can't trust his career in Kevin's hands. Kevin put the world title on that dipshit.
From there, they were granted their release and went straight to WWF.
A little band of midgets ran to New York, and I said, "I just saved our company $2.5 million a year because they never drew a dime."
Sullivan booked Benoit to win the WCW title to show that he was willing to do business with Chris. Benoit and the others who were unhappy thought they were all going to get screwed on the back end. Meanwhile, Kevin wasn't sure if Chris was going to stay. Therefore, Sullivan booked a screwy finish in case the new champion did indeed leave. Kevin discussed this in interviews provided by Title Match Wrestling and kayfabe commentaries.
I never had a problem with Chris until the very end when I put the belt on him.
I just think that they were so paranoid. Somebody made them paranoid, and it could have been me. It could have been me.
Sullivan had previously been the booker back in 1996 when he paired Nancy and Benoit on screen together.
And then the idea that Kevin had was to put them in a motel together. Bad mistake.
But they put them in a hotel together to try to get the angle, and I think that's where it started. So sometime when you own the gimmicks and, you know, everybody's on good. You know, Nancy, God rest her soul, she took the gimmicks too. I took them, everybody took gimmicks. So
the two would end up getting together for real, though Kevin claims he could always separate business from personal. Chris, however, didn't think so, hence their tension.
We weren't living together for 8 months, and I knew she was going to end up with somebody because I wasn't going to be staying there. I didn't know it was going to be Chris. You know, he had a 2-week-old baby when this thing all transpired. With his wife, yeah.
Some have pointed to Benoit's losing record on pay-per-views from late 97 through all of 98 as proof Sullivan had it out for Chris. One of the Canadian Crippler's main programs during this period came against DDP and Raven. Benoit clashed with both men individually backstage when it came to their matches. DDP was infamous for planning out every single thing beforehand. Chris, however, preferred to call most of his stuff in the ring. On the Keeping It 100 podcast, Conan, Disco Inferno, and former WCW announcer Mark Madden spoke about what happened when Page and Benoit met before their 3-way match with Raven at Uncensored 98.
So Benoit sure enough comes by and Page goes up to him with the script. Benoit doesn't break stride. He grabs the script, rips it like 50 pieces, and just keeps walking.
That's the first time that I really found out that he had a script, a DDP, because Benoit told me about it. And he was like, can you believe that this guy wrote stuff down? No, bro.
Raven and Benoit initially didn't see eye to eye because Chris always wanted to work his usual intense, high-impact style, which was in contrast to how Raven wrestled.
Raven used to blow up in the matches. He didn't do cardio and stuff, and I don't think, you know, Benoit was a workout freak. You know, Raven wasn't. You know, and Raven was doing a lot of pills and stuff and everything, you know, back then.
He didn't like me at first because of my, because I was such a partying type, I guess. My only problems with him was he had one speed.
Because he never gave you a chance to sell. He never gave you, if you don't get a chance to sell, then how am I going to commit to the act of drama?
Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our similar video on 10 WWE wrestlers who had real life heat with Chris Jericho. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.